So today is another very special day. I'm here with Lauren Dunn, who is a Chief People Officer at WIS. Lauren, thank you so much for taking the time and also for talking about this very important topic today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Sheryl. I'm thrilled to be here and talking to you today.
So before we jump in, we were talking about before we went live that we're in kind of an interesting time in history right now. And there's a lot of people wondering about what's happening tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, what have you. And so I think that really directly ties into the conversation that we're going to have about putting your people first. And also, how does that tie into profitability? But before we do that, I thought I would ask a little bit about you. Was there a situation or a person that either inspired you to greatness or something difficult that you decided to overcome? Or how did you start your path?
Yeah, I think we're all born with whatever greatness is inside, right? First and foremost. And it's just about getting it out in the right area, the right silo, the right path, whatever it is for you. But certainly, I grew up middle child, so I definitely think there's something to the birth order. And I'm one of three, older brother and a younger brother. So I've always been in rooms with lots of men and always trying to keep up. Even in my early career, I was always in restaurants and real estate and definitely male dominated industries. And so I think for me, it's always been about, having a voice and being in that room with those individuals. And I've never felt put aside or cast off because as a female, I was always treated like an equal and like I had a voice. I feel very lucky for that. And certainly too, my mom, just watching her, she's a teacher for 40 plus years, and just what she gave to us as a family and what she gave to her students. I mean, she would have phone calls at 5, 6 o'clock at night from students just wanting to talk to her about certain things and providing that guidance. And I think, you know, teachers still probably aren't respected to the extent that they should be. And mothers probably too, coming up on Mother's Day, here this month. So watching her certainly was inspiring, and just knowing that I could give back in the same way. I'm no teacher, but I do try to provide that same sort of guidance in my job every day. So.
Yeah, so I might challenge you on that one that you're not a teacher. You might not be a teacher in the formal sense, but okay. So also I'm wondering too, you know, being part of many male-dominated industries, which let's be candid about it, that's most industries, even still, what has been the mindset that's, helped you to keep going? Because I imagine it hasn't always been easy.
Yeah, just not being afraid to speak up and not being afraid to fail. I tell my team at WIS all the time, if don't be afraid to break it because I can probably fix it because I've broken it before. And failure is just learning. It's just more information, and maybe it leads you to a better outcome than it was before. So just being open and honest with yourself and other people, and also that you don't have all the answers. I think so early in our careers, we think we're here to have the answer to every single question that comes across our desk as HR, comes across our desk as a people operator. But we have teams, right? I work with employment attorneys, I work with immigration attorneys, I work with my internal operational teams, and that's because we need to get all the voices and all the minds in the room. So not being afraid to maybe say something silly or ask what you might think is a dumb question, or just say how you feel. And I think people have always respected me for that, and it's done me well. So.
Yeah, so I love that. And I love just so if you're listening and can't see the video, that dumb question definitely had air quotes around it, meaning that there is no dumb question. So ask the question because I think it's probably better to ask than to keep it yourself, because there's likely value in it for yourself or for others.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
And then, so for the topic on people first and profitability, those are two things that haven't, oh, I have to be honest, after over 100 interviews, I haven't had those two in the same title. And so a lot of times when we're talking about people first, we think of it maybe as a nice to have or an obligation or something that's fair. But at the end of the day, it really impacts profitability. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, I I believe that humans are our most valuable resource, right? No two are the same. Even twins. My mom's a twin. She has a twin brother, and they're very alike, but they're not the same. And all of the experiences that we have and all of the information that we take in and observations every day molds us to how we make decisions and how we show up every day. And I think the magic of putting different types of people together and that synergy in a team is really what that drives me. I think it's just fascinating because you never know. I think people are the most unpredictable species on planet Earth. You never know what you're going to see, hear, feel in a room sometimes. So at WIS, it's understanding who those people are at their core. It's hiring really authentic people who we allow a space for them to show up as themselves and provide them opportunities to shine and grow through their work, because we do work more than we do a lot of other things. And so how do we do that? Our DEI programs, all of our development programs, performance coaching, compensation benefit strategies, all the things that our HR and people operations, touches, we just want to create that space for them to be the best version of themselves. And for us at WIS, that's going to drive the profitability. And it's shown it through and through. Some of our best ideas, all of our best ideas are coming from the people. So if we don't take care of them, what are we doing? Even in a time during COVID, we were light in the office, but we had just moved to a brand new office space in 2019. And so it was like, where is everyone? What are we going to do? We just invested in this space and everyone was moving away from office spaces, right? And here we are, all hands back in, right? We're going to invest in our artwork and we're going to invest in that light, and we're still doing it. And it's beautiful. It's an amazing space. We've got 2 floors now in Florham Park, a space in New York, a space in Flemington. And we're flexible. We do still have remote employees, and we say we're hybrid, and we're not taking attendance and writing when people are coming in, but most people are coming in. I live 4.5 hours away and I'm still showing up every 5 or 6 weeks because we want to be there. We want to be together for that synergy, for that energy. We want to be there in the space that's been created for us. And so I think when you have something like that, that's so palpable, it has to translate to profit. It just has to. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like a great sports team. And sometimes you don't know why they're winning. And sometimes you don't know what the magic is. But if everybody's, rowing that same direction, only good things can come as far as I'm concerned. So I'm so grateful and thrilled that I have the team that I have and the runway that I have to provide programmings for our people, because I think they're just great. And it's funny because I know you've had a lot of people on your program in the past, with larger companies. So for us at just over 300 people, I know everybody's names, and I know their kids, and I know what's going on in their lives. And I think there's something really, magic and special about that too, to be able to have your finger on the pulse of, not just the organization, but the individuals too. So I hope more organizations can, try to think that way. I'm sure it's harder in a global setting or a large organization, but I think it's very important, very important.
Yeah, I feel like chief people officer takes on a whole new role if you really know your people.
Yes.
To that level. Yeah.
And you're thinking through all of the offerings that you have, you're thinking through it for the individual. Like, how is, this person going to react to that type of coaching, or how would this person receive that type of setting or that kind of meeting? And so, and again, we just take feedback from all of our people. Like, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I'm smart enough to know to listen to everybody else. And so we open our doors to feedback for everybody at WIS and allow them a big hand in guiding what we do too, which I think is important. So.
Yeah. And so I'm going to ask you maybe an impossible question, but what is, when it comes to people first, what do you think are the 1 or 2 most important things that WIS does to put people first?
I would say number 1, flexibility. We are so blessed to have the leadership team in place that we have that understands working parents and aging parents and aging yourself and injuries or illnesses. And we have a flexible PTO policy. We're very giving when it comes to leave programming and supplementation, because life happens. And hopefully it's not happening every year that you're having these issues, but issues are going to arise. I mean, even for me, I just moved to Massachusetts, and they were fully supportive of me going, mostly remote. But even during that time, I didn't have childcare in place. I don't have family up here. And our chief operating officer, Amanda Dominguez, has been nothing but incredible in understanding that I need some flexibility right now. And in about 6 weeks, and my kids are in camp and in solid care, moving into kindergarten and public schools, we're back in business, and nothing has changed, and my performance is still there. But for her to know, and again, that goes with knowing your people. She knows me, she knows my family, and so of course she wants to be supportive of that. But am I moving every year and I'm going to need that? So no, but I think that flexibility is super important. Again, that individuality and care of the individual, I think, is huge. And authenticity, allowing people to show up to the office as who they are. We don't really have a dress code. Jeans are acceptable. There's a bit of a sneaker culture at WIS. We have a lot of young people, largely under 40 and female, which is very interesting. We're still edging out the males just a touch. We're hanging on. But so the culture is very unique, and I think that just allows people to be themselves and do the best work. So.
And then on the flip side of that, what are the consequences if companies don't honor some of the things that you're talking about?
Listen, I think innovation suffers if people aren't comfortable to come and have a voice, like I was saying earlier, and be comfortable to speak around the table when they have a great idea. Certainly retention, our retention rate has been amazing. I've been here just 4.5 years. It continues to improve. We rarely see, voluntary terminations. So when we do, it's usually just a different change in something that they want, not because of the company, which is super important to us. So yeah, I mean, every company is different, and people are also motivated by different things. Some people can be motivated by, a financial reward, compensation, benefits, that they don't really care about the culture or bringing their authentic selves to work. And flexibility. They're just there to execute whatever that thing is, that next title, that next step, that next dollar amount. If you're motivated by that, this is probably not that place. But the people that really want to enjoy working and have a place that they feel good about contributing, I think this is a great organization for that. So.
Yeah. And so what have you seen? I mean, I'm sure you're connected to other people and other companies. I mean, what have you seen with the companies that are very rigid?
I mean, you see people leaving. I think also you see what's happening now with a lot of the, return to office mandates, that people get stressed out. They're sitting in traffic. It may be inefficient for them to get in and out of the city or wherever they have to get to, and it's harder on childcare. We do not provide enough childcare resources in this country, both at a federal level, but also just from us too. We're working on that now. We're not giving enough support to our parents. And we're seeing that, right, in mental health issues, the strain on working parents, and now with the generation getting squeezed with aging parents and their older parents. I'm one of those people. I had kids later in my 30s, and I have, parents that are getting older, and so certainly that's a consideration for me too. My kids are little; they're 4 and 6, and I'm the main caretaker as a chief people officer. But my husband has a more heavier lift of a role than I do. So, most parents, a lot of people, both individuals are working in the couple. So how are you supporting that too? And we want to still be able to raise our children and hopefully enjoy our life too. So it's tough for sure. But I think for us, it's guidelines. We're not rigid. There's not mandates. We need to improve setting expectations and driving high performance. And I think when you treat people like adults and you use those words as opposed to mandates and policies, I think people behave like adults. That's what I found.
Yeah, no, I think 100%. And it's interesting. I think I was hearing that the United States is really one of the only countries that doesn't provide, childcare and also like paternity leave, because a lot of times women in corporate, they don't want to leave too, because they feel like it might knock them back a few rungs or what have you. But let's say in Europe or other countries, when men are taking that time too, then it's less of a concern.
Yeah.
So there's definitely hopefully some work to do in policies, but it seems like that you create a culture where people feel safe that they're going to stay there.
Yeah, definitely. And working hard at that every day because it's still a changing environment, and different needs. And, people require different things in 2, 3, 4, 5 years than they do now. So just constantly watching and talking and observing and, connecting with the people, like we said earlier, on an individual level. What's happening? What can we do? What are we missing? Having those exit interviews when people do voluntarily leave. Why? What's driving you to leave, so we can really understand. And we're lucky that we get a lot of great feedback that way, and we're small enough that we can adjust very quickly, which is helpful too. So
Yeah, 100%. And so if you're either a leader who's listening and thinking, oh boy, we need to do a lot better, or if you're an emerging leader thinking that my organization does not quite have this down quite yet, what is some, advice that you would have or tangible steps to take to kind of move things forward?
yeah, I mean, current leaders, I would just say don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to come to the table with an innovative idea. You never know what's going to work. I've been pushing wellness programs on organizations for so many years before there were such things as wellness programs, literally designing them on a no budget, just reaching out to friends, old yoga gurus, anything that worked for me, exposing it to the people I worked with. And I would always be fascinated, 1 year, 4 people show up to meditation, like, oh, it's failed, right? Next year, 8 people show up to meditation. Oh, only 8 people, right? Next year, 25 people, 40 people. At WIS, we have 60 plus people on calls meditating in the office. That's incredible. I don't care if that's only a portion of the 300 of the organization. That's a huge number, in my opinion. And if 60 people get something out of that, I'm all in. So, and people thought back in the day when I started doing it, I'm aging myself, starting that it's hooey fooey stuff and who's meditating in the workplace. And now there's people that have whole businesses about meditating in the workplace. So, don't be afraid, certainly to step outside of the box, as long as it works with your culture and your organization. Again, you have to make sure it's aligned, which I think is huge. For emerging leaders, I think just know you have a voice. You have a voice now, even if you don't feel experienced or confident in where you are in your life. It's just a different voice later when you're more experienced in your life. And I'm sure my voice will change in the next, 5, 10 years as well. So be excited for that and just know that you have, again, back to what we talked about at the very beginning, I think everybody has greatness inside of them. It's just pulling it out. And that's my favorite thing to do working with people, is just how do I get the best thing out of you, whatever that thing is. And it doesn't only have to be performance, but just if it's your purpose to help people, how do I put you in a position to do that, to get you home and have a great, have your tea at the end of the day and say, I'm grateful I got to do that thing today, whatever it is. So, and be true to yourself, authentic to yourself in that regard. So it's exciting. I sort of look back and wish I had people giving me that advice when I was, early in my career. That's a word of advice too. Listen to everybody and ask everyone for advice.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. And I'm right there with you. Just because through coaching leaders and their teams, I've seen, and also too, working with Olympians. I mean, all of us have a spark, whether you're Olympian or chief people officer, or you're just getting started. And that purpose though is fluid. And so if you're feeling a little, I don't know, off, or like something needs to change or different, then I agree with Lauren 100%, just to speak up about it, because probably, especially people who've been in an organization for a long amount of time, maybe they came in one role, but then they've matured to understand that they are better at something else. And maybe it's something, or they're more passionate about something else. And so I just think about that, speaking up and just really asking for what you need or sharing what is on your heart could, at the end of the day, really help with the organization with profitability.
Definitely. And that transparency, right? Being able to have those transparent conversations with people that if there is something that's not resonating or they feel stuck, how do we adjust that? And maybe it's a whole new job or role that we can create for them. Maybe a job change is in the cards. Maybe it's, we've had a number of people come back from, maternity or paternity leave and say, hey, you know what, I want to go part-time, or, I can only do 3 or 4 days instead of 5. And we don't want to lose that institutional knowledge, and we don't want to lose the greatness of those people. So yeah, we're gonna work with you, but being able to set again that comfortable space for people to say, hey, like, raise my hand and can we talk about this? And the likelihood of WIS working something out with our people is quite high.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think for that reason, they're not afraid. There's no fear there, which I think is also super important, just in general, right? That's a big harbor for all of us if there's fear. So creating those comfortable spaces is very important.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And then when it comes to putting people first, how can you think of an example of how it directly relates to profitability?
Oh man, I think, listen, right now there's a number of initiatives at WIS. One is really that person to person marketing. So having those authentic voices out in the marketplace. We have a few folks who engage sort of on their own social media platforms, sort of within WIS and on behalf of WIS and what they do. And again, I think it's just, hey, here's a really unique individual who has a really unique story. Let's allow them this platform. And again, I think the word influencer, it's like not my favorite word to use. I wish we had a better one. But allow them a platform for this influencing that they do. But it's also outreach. Like, it's turned into not just highlighting this person for who they are, but it's giving them an outlet to connect to future accountants and potential future employees at WIS, which is incredible. And there's numerous people that are engaging in these PR and marketing sort of campaigns, but they're not really designed as marketing campaigns. They're more designed to highlight the person, and it just sort of becomes that, again, this very authentic presentation of it. And I think it's showing huge gains for us in terms of following on LinkedIn, client profiles, Google picking us up, more when we have articles that are coming out. So, easy. And it's, by the way, hard to pinpoint sometimes the profitability of marketing campaigns. So I think it's a good one for sure. But I think it allows them a little bit of that creative exercise too, as accountants on one side of the brain. Then to be able to showcase their creativity on the other side is also just great for their job and their sense of self and spirit too, sort of creating that brand for themselves. So it's been fun to watch. I'm a small part of that, but just on my own accord. But some of the people at WIS are doing a really awesome job right now, which is great.
Yeah, and I think just getting to know people as people and can be really helpful too, not
Yeah,
just as people who are doing something, but people who are unique individuals.
that's right. Just being, right? They're just being themselves and being honest, authentic, to who they are, and bringing their true selves to WIS and to, the people, which is great. So.
Yeah. And then the last thing I would ask is if, for companies like we were talking about that are just more rigid and where people are maybe more anxious and more stressed, and how does that directly impact profitability as well?
Oh, listen, I mean, I'm sure everyone at some point in their life struggles with some kind of anxiety. I, tout wellness a lot, but certainly don't, have my own struggles when it comes to anxiety. And it clouds your vision, right? It's like you can't see straight if you're, not in the right headspace. And so how they show up to work, whether they're showing up to work, absenteeism, illness, all of those things can be affected by, whether it's anxiety or some other issue. So I think taking care of people, and we do this a lot when it comes to the benefit side of things, right? There's one thing to design benefit plans and figure out how to support people on that side of the coin. It's another element to keep people healthy. So when we do open enrollment, we talk about our benefits offerings. We couple that with a wellness expo where we bring in local providers of, you name it, IV therapy, shaking on a power plate, lasers, red lights, whatever the thing is, and it's huge business right now. So there's a lot of those providers in the area, especially in New Jersey. But we bring that in to say, hey, like take time for yourself. These are things that might help you. Maybe it's not the IVs, maybe it's not red light, maybe it's a better gym membership or going to yoga or meditating. But at least that exposure to understand and say, hey, no, we want you to stay healthy because getting sick is that much worse, right? And it's not just about using the benefit, it takes you away from your family, it takes you away from doing great work. So, it's super important, I think, again, just what are we here? I heard this quote once. It was like, um, your team doesn't get to select, your family is as your team, like they don't get to select you and they can't kick you off the team, right?
Mhm.
Where like at work, you can go pick another team or they can kick you off the team. So if we can't stay healthy for our family because of our work,
Mhm.
right? Like you're not gonna be able to take care of the team that's most important. How does that work, right? So all the money that you make to bring home to take care of the household, but you're not healthy or not in a good headspace when you're hanging out with your family. Like to me, that doesn't quite resonate. Like that should be the biggest benefit of working and maintaining a household is that then you can come home and enjoy the family that you created and the family space that you created. So yeah, it's detrimental for sure. And I've seen it quite a bit. Working in the restaurant industry for the majority of my early career, very long hours, very stressful. It's very hard on people. It's a labor of love for sure. I think it's getting better, specifically after COVID, but I think that probably drove me the most to wellness and yoga and meditation, sort of why I'm so focused on that now, because I've seen burnout in various capacities and it's scary.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, yeah, I love that so much. And so, in terms of profitability, it seems like there's lots of consequences,
yes,
of not putting your people first, as far as having them, you know, from probably quiet quitting to health issues to real quitting. But even if the quitting isn't on the table, just from my research, it's just, and also probably from what you've witnessed, that if you don't put them first, and you were talking about anxiety, but people cannot be high performers. They can't even think straight and
right.
access what makes them so uniquely amazing and why they get hired in their role.
That's
And
right.
so it seems like that the consequences of not putting people first is probably more costly than companies even
That's
realize.
right. And not to mention people working sort of against you if they're not happy. So if they are coming to work and have anxiety or have these issues or not being paid appropriately or benefits aren't being, voiced in a transparent manner, you know, you have some people who just, I call it phoning it in, right? Press the buttons to get through the day and right, but that's actively working against the company. We should all want to be coming in and doing our best to move the company forward. So I don't know, it all works together so seamlessly. Sometimes I think it's so silly if you're not focusing on the health and wellness and, mindset of your employees, you know, it'll directly work against you anyway. So you might as well put the proactive emphasis in now versus dealing with the consequences later. Just like healthy bodies, healthy minds, right? Put the positive in, do your workouts, doesn't have to be, every day, but a couple days a week. Eat healthy, drink your water, like everything should, maintain. Sometimes it doesn't, but it should.
Yeah.
And so same, I love to garden, so I always use the plant analogy. Like if the plant isn't growing, do you blame the plant? No, it needs sun, it needs the right soil, it needs to be watered, it needs fertilizer. So if the plant isn't growing, I did something wrong,
Yeah.
you know. I have two rose bushes that are not doing well right now, so I'm
On you.
I'm a work in progress still myself as a gardener.
But it kind of reminds me of a couple of months ago, we had a touch base, like this is my TMI, but we have like a family counselor. And so my husband and I went, and she was like, because date night, and I'll tell you what this has to do with anything, but it kind of fall down the wayside. So date night was like COVID or a flu shot or going to Trader Joe's. And she was like, well, that's not really date night. But anyways, and so I'm like, well, it's just so much pressure. Like on Thursday, I'm tired. And then I was thinking I have to plan like a date night. And I'm like, I don't want to do a big thing and go out and be out till 9. Like, and so she's like, well, it can be a sit on the couch and look at the other person and say, how are you doing?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that was an invitation into my therapy with my husband. But I mean, it can also very powerful, even if you are in a large organization, to take someone in your team aside and not just be, these are the goals, these are the deadlines, these are the KPIs, these are, and just take them aside occasionally and be like, how are you doing?
Yes.
And
So
I
I
think,
love that you brought this up. So first of all, a note to people, because I know we're giving advice today, but my husband and I have a weekly one-on-one. It's scheduled, it's on the calendar. We've canceled enough in recent months since we've just moved and it's been very busy, but we try to keep them. Even if we really don't have much to talk about, we try to keep it to get on the same page because it's the 1 30-minute slot of the week that our kids aren't talking
yeah.
to us at the same time. Very hard to get quiet space right now, especially with lack of, family support around since we've just moved. So highly recommend scheduling one-on-ones with your partner. Very important. Um, I think secondly, an interesting piece of WIS when I joined was the way that the accountants are scheduled on jobs. They have multiple managers. And so in that sort of flat matrix structure, there wasn't a lot of accountability of like, well, John, the staffer, isn't performing, but like, who's his manager? Like, who's going to tell John that he's not performing? And it sort of landed on HR and people ops for a while. We have a mentorship program, which was sort of loosely defined when I arrived, which we've really been working hard to put more definition to. And I have to say, we sort of renamed some of it. We call the mentors growth champions as opposed to mentors, and proteges as opposed to mentees. Um, and it is still loosely defined in a sense of how often are we asking them to meet with their proteges and sort of what are the things that we want them to do. But one of the things that we really do push is to get to know them personally to the extent that they're willing to be vulnerable. Because we feel that if these growth champions are going to take ownership of the younger team members, there should be personal goals and professional goals. We should know what's a little bit about what's going on at home in case it is affecting work or if work is affecting home. And so putting some of these parameters and having it be a more formalized program and really being diligent about who's selected as growth champions has really helped, I think. And you're seeing now, just over the last couple of years, the growth champions are so invested in their people and they want them to win and they want them to be successful and they're reaching out to us if they need things. So we've now, instead of becoming that like band-aid manager where nobody wanted to take ownership of people because nobody knew, it's like that anybody, nobody, somebody poem. Anybody could have done it, but nobody knew, so nobody did it kind of thing. Now that ownership has shifted back to them and you're starting to see that team synergy, really forming in some of the departments, and it's so great. And I think accountants by nature think they're not people and they're like boring or they have no personalities. They all have amazing personalities and they're hilarious and they're great people. They just didn't know. And they just needed a little guidance and a little support in, again, being yourself, being a little bit vulnerable, opening to the extent you want to, right? And creating and forming those relationships. And that's what teamwork and synergy is all about, right? It's human relationships. So it's been really nice to see, and we have more work to do there, but it's definitely been a helpful program, and we're starting to see it really shift, which is great. And even at the upper levels now in the partners, having some of the older, more experienced partners really mentoring the new ones coming up, and even taking ownership of people that want to become partners. So we should start seeing the fruits of that labor very soon. And we're in performance reviews now, good old performance reviews, which everybody loves. But it's been great to look at that process too and how it's evolved over the last couple of years. And people are really invested, like they want to get feedback. They want to know how they're doing and they're not afraid to ask. And I think that's great too. So lots of good signs, but you have to work at it, right? It's just like the relationship, you have to work at it. Doesn't come without it work, and it's not easy. So
Yeah, so I think it's from putting my coaching hat on that really checks the box of the social accountability because it's in a non-threatening space. It's kind of like the big brother, big sister approach to accountability. It's not somebody who's judging you or grading you or doing your performance review. It's a champion who probably isn't afraid to be real, or hopefully not afraid to be real with you either.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
So
again, we have way to go, and we do a lot of coaching on how to give feedback and receive feedback. And, listen, it's not the easiest thing. I definitely did some feedback requests of people that I'm sure will give me some interesting feedback this year, but I'm willing to hear it. I want to hear it. And so as long as we keep coaching ourselves on that and work together to get better, we'll be in good space. So it's
yeah,
exciting to me.
yeah, those are a couple really great ideas. So, what would you like to leave all the listeners with? Like, and you've covered so many gold nuggets of wisdom, but anything you'd like to leave everybody with?
Oh man, I think all the people leaders that probably listen to your show, won't be surprised when I just say service mindset, service leadership. I think if you come in every day, at least from my perspective, what my team executes at WIS, wanting to serve our people. They serve the clients and we serve them. And if we're doing our job, they're going to do a great job with the clients, driving that profitability. So just coming in to serve and do something greater than yourself,
Mhm.
and uh, be kind, maybe. Well, be kind. We can all use a little more kindness in the world to each other, probably. Moving up here to New England, it's a lot slower lifestyle and a lot of 35-mile-an-hour roads
Yeah,
that there's only 2 lanes. So certainly slowing down and being kind as a New Jersey girl, Jersey driver has been
yeah,
a work in progress for me too. So take the gear down, slow down, be kind, don't beep the horn, definitely will help. So,
yeah. I love that so much. And also, I don't know if you follow Donna Morris at Walmart, but that's her whole brand, be kind. And I think there's a lot to it that, we can bring into our places of work and into our families and our communities. And hopefully there will be a trickle down. So,
yes.
Lauren Dunn, congratulations on your new home and your move and
Thank
all of your
you.
amazing work. I appreciate your time and look forward to following your journey.
Yes, thank you, Cheryl. Great to see you.